2020, the year of suffering. And of course, we're all here because of the Rona. So today, I thought I would come here and talk about 5 quotes by Ayn Rand that capture the feelings many of us are experiencing right now due to this pandemic and all of 2020's troubles. But before we get to that, let me just vent a little bit. The state of the world is not just the Rona's fault. The government has clearly aggravated things by their response to the threat of the virus. I mean, seriously, this lockdown has gone on for too long. We might not still be technically under lockdown, but the fact that so many businesses remain closed and there are so many restrictions regarding gathering with people makes it feel like the lockdown is still going on. And of course, I have to mention all the protests, riots, looting, and police misconduct that have also tarnished the year. And you know what else has made this year worse for me personally? Commercials with user-generated video footage. You know what I'm talking about? Like those commercials that started appearing during the pandemic. They're commercials featuring video recorded on your phone, and they show people doing fun things while locked up at home, like slow motion, black and white, and there's a piano on the background, and the videos show people like having a happy hour on their video call, or making forts with their kids, or baking, or gardening. Like, stop it. I literally want to shoot myself every time I see one of those commercials.
Stop trying to make
quarantine
happen. It's not going to happen.
Quarantine is not fun. Stop trying to convince me it is. Anyway, let's get to the quotes. I'm going to read you each quote and then we'll discuss how it relates to our current situation. Although it's going to be very evident just from listening to it. The first quote is from Ayn Rand's novel We the Living, as told by the main character, Kira Argunova. Now look at me. Take a good look. I was born and I knew I was alive, and I knew what I wanted. What do you think is alive in me? Why do you think I'm alive? Because I have a stomach and eat and digest the food? Because I breed and work and produce more food to digest? Or because I know what I want, and that's something which knows how to want? Isn't that life itself? And who in this damn universe can tell me why I should live for anything but for that which I want? So this quote makes me think of the struggle of the individual versus the government. Or at least here in California, our governor crippled the livelihood of so many people by shutting down their businesses. I'm not saying the virus isn't a threat, and I'm not saying we shouldn't take special precautions in the world of COVID, but forbidding people from earning a living is immoral. It actually reminds me of this meme I saw on Facebook. And for us regular people who don't have businesses and just want to live life, it is extremely frustrating to see full days of our lives that will never get back drift away forever in this quarantine. But how did we get here? Is it because society and the government think they have a claim on our lives, so they get to decide what we can and can do? Do they have the right to sacrifice our lives for whatever they deem moral?
No, God!
Like Kira says, who in this damn universe can tell me why I should live for anything but for that which I want? And this brings me to the next quote. This one's super short. Achieving life is not the equivalent of avoiding death. Joy is not the absence of pain. This is from Atlas Shrugged. So as we know, conventional morality is all about being an altruist and living for others. So it is understandable people buy into these lockdowns intended to save lives at the cost of their own sanity and well-being. But for people like me who value their life and do not want to live for others, happiness is our top priority, and just breathing and being alive does not mean one's having a life worth living. But of course, just because we don't live for others doesn't mean we should go around recklessly endangering others and coughing in their faces. But let's be real, only a small minority of insane people go around doing things like that. Most people, including myself, will be sure to do anything within reasonable means to not expose others to disease. Anyways, there's actually another part of that quote that I just read, and it also applies in this context. Here's what it says. Building is not done by abstaining from demolition. Centuries of sitting and waiting in such abstinence will not raise one single girder for you to abstain from demolishing. Existence is not a negation of negatives. Building is not done by abstaining from demolition. In our case, we're not going to produce a life worth living by sitting on our butts for months. The fact that the government somehow thinks that it is better for everyone to prevent us from working makes no sense. Our economic problems are not going to get better by us not having an economy. Next quote. Defiance, not obedience, is the Americans' answer to overbearing authority. And this is from Ayn Rand's essay Don't Let It Go, which can be found in Philosophy Who Needs It. Okay, so this quote also makes me think about businesses. I wish that at the beginning of the lockdown, businesses had organized and refused to shut down. I mean, if only one business refused to shut down, they would probably get in trouble. But if most businesses had stood up against the lockdowns and remained operational, like, what is the government going to do? Put all of them in jail? Probably not. Impossible to do. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but I definitely wish people were much less compliant and stood up against these shutdowns. Now, regarding the protests, I have a quote for this too. This one is from The Objectivist, and it says the following: "One does not and cannot negotiate with brutality, nor give it the benefit of the doubt. The moral absolute should be, if and when, in any dispute, one side initiates the use of physical force, that side is wrong, and no consideration or discussion of the issues is necessary or appropriate." All right. Of course, many of the people protesting have real grievances and there are real issues that need to be addressed, but there are way too many people making up excuses for the rioting and the looting that's happening in these protests. Just like you should not make excuses to defend the police for killing innocent people, you should also not defend the looters. Killing is definitely worse than looting, but they are both immoral actions and they both deserve condemnation. And on Facebook, I see way too many people defending the looters, and I'm just like, what? And now for the final quote. This one also makes me think about the effects of the lockdown on our mental health, our mood, and our general well-being. It reads, "The form in which man experiences the reality of his values is pleasure. A chronic lack of pleasure, of any enjoyable, rewarding, or stimulating experiences, produces a slow, gradual, day-by-day erosion of man's emotional vitality, which he may ignore or repress, but which is recorded by the relentless computer of his subconscious mechanism that registers an ebbing flow, then a trickle, then a few last drops of fuel, until the day when his inner motor stops, and he wonders desperately why he has no desire to go on, unable to find any definable cause of his hopeless, chronic sense of exhaustion." A chronic lack of enjoyable experiences can kill your spirit, and this is where we're now. So if you find yourself in this type of depressive state, try creating some type of enjoyable experience that can bring you back to life. It is definitely harder to do right now, but you have to fight for your life and do whatever you can to give yourself some joy. Okay, I know I have complained a lot about this quarantine in this video, but I do have to say that we are lucky to be experiencing this right now instead of 4 years ago, because now we have so many ways to enrich our lives without having to leave the house. You know, thanks to all of the technologies created by greedy people like Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs. If it wasn't for Netflix and Zoom, where would we be right now? Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you think of any more quotes that can help you express how you feel about this quarantine, please share them in the comments. But yeah, there will be a new video next week, so stay tuned and thank you for watching.